for today's cataloging roundtable. It is the penultimate of the year. I will, as always, start by pulling up our agenda. The agenda is always linked to the event in the LibCal continuing education calendar, but it's typically a rough draft because I like to take notes as we move through it. So here we are here, make it a little bit bigger. As always, I'm Lauren Kelly. I'm the Technical Services Consultant here at the Department of Libraries. And like I said, this is our second to last cataloging roundtable of the year. And as always, this link here is where this agenda will live, with the recording link up at the top when that is updated and published. And I usually try to send an email out letting everyone know that it is available. So I said my name, my library location, I'm in Barrie, and we use Verso. And I think I'm going to stop sharing, and if we can go around, I'll just go through the list as it appears. If you just introduce yourself, state what library you're at, and what ILS you use. And if you don't have capability of coming on camera using a microphone, feel free to place it in the chat. All right, so first on the list is Adele. I don't see any typing, and you are muted. Hello. We got you in the chat here. And Adele, what library are you at, and what town? Oh, and the ILS that you use as well. It's always good to know what people are working with, because so many cataloging topics are so ILS specific. The next person on our list, thank you, Adele, for sharing St. Johnsbury and Thnam and using Koha. Great. Allison Beckwith is next. Also not hearing anything from you, Allison.
Sorry.
Oh.
Hi. Yes, I
Hello.
work at Dorothy Alling Memorial Library and I use Koha.
Awesome. Thank you. And next on our list is, I feel like I'm going to get your name wrong, and I'm so sorry already. Cerise? Is it Charisse or is it Cerise? I see you're typing in the chat. It is Cerise. Okay, thank you. Awesome. You are at Barrie at the Aldrich Public Library using Destiny, the Follett product. Awesome. Thank you. Next, we have Deborah.
Good morning. I go by Deb, and
Thanks,
I'm
Deb.
here at Norwich University Library in Northfield, Vermont. We use WMS, but we're an academic library that uses Dewey. So we're a little bit different than other academic libraries in the state. Our biggest thing right now that we've been seeming to be dealing with lately is donations all of a sudden again. So that's what's going on here in Northfield.
Thank you, Deb. And we have Hannah at Brownell.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Brownell, and we use Koha.
Awesome. And we have Janet. Janet, I don't know if you've unmuted or not. Oh, perfect. Janet at Rutland using Catamount, using Koha. Awesome, thank you. Caitlin is next.
Hi, Caitlin Epstein. I'm at Essex Free, and we use Koha.
Great, thank you. Next we have Margaret joining us. Maggie Wagner, Technical Services Librarian at Stowe and using Koha. Awesome. And next on the list, we have Michelle.
I might take this one out.
Someone has created a separate participant, a meeting guest of the together mode, which is always terrible. So I don't think I can get rid of it. Let me see if I can get rid of it in the people page. Okay, I think that fixed it. All right, that is okay. I know there's so many buttons on Teams. So we got some people who just joined us. We're just going around doing some introductions, saying where you work, if you are working at a library, what town, and what ILS you are using. And I think we were at Pat, you were ready to go.
I'm Pat from Wind Hall in Southern Vermont, and we use Koha.
Thank you. And we have Ruth. Oh, I think you're muted.
Hi, Ruth Hay. I work at Lanphier Memorial Library in Hyde Park. Sorry, I'm late. Microsoft
No worries.
does not like my iPad, I guess.
Oh.
And yeah, it took me through like 8 different things that didn't work. Anyway, we use Koha and we do like it quite a lot.
Great. Thanks, Ruth. I'm glad you were able to join us. Sorry
Me
for
too.
the
Thank you.
technology hoops. And I think Jess joined us as well. Jess, if you want to introduce yourself, I see that Burnham Library is listed. And if you just want to say what ILS you guys are using, either in the chat or via camera and mic, up to you. Oh, you have put it in the chat. Hello, and on Koha. Great. Did I miss anyone? I think did we hear from Michelle at FML Fletcher Memorial, I'm guessing. Okay, I think that's everyone. It's always nice to be able to kind of sync up some faces with some names, but you do not have to stay on camera. That is totally up to you. We are recording, so this will be posted in the agenda on the website. So yes, Michelle is at Fletcher Memorial Library using Koha. Thanks for putting that in the chat. All right, I'm going to jump back to our agenda here. And if questions come up, please feel free to interrupt. I don't always see the hands. I mostly get notified when they do come up. But if you feel confident and need to, just feel free to interrupt. Let me know. If I need to change anything, go back, clarify, let me know. Like I've noted, we have our next and last meeting of the year, November 26th. That one will be at 10 a.m. But then I wanted to make it absolutely clear that in 2025, for the cataloging roundtable meetings, we're going to be moving. Every other meeting is going to be at 1 p.m. So hopefully that's a time that works for you. If not, you can always catch the recording. I know some people find it hard with a 10 a.m. meeting time because a lot of libraries open at that time. So this, hopefully we can catch some more people that way. So our February meeting, still the last Tuesday of each month, will be at 1 p.m. And then May, the meeting will be back at 10, August at 1, November at 10. And if people have other suggestions about a better time or anything like that, just always send me an email. You know, it really does me no good if I'm able to make the meeting and no one else is. So just thought I would make that very clear. And I'll update the website so that it'll reiterate that information as we approach the new year. But we're not there yet. Speaking of things happening in this year, the cataloging core course for the certificate program is full at the moment, which will be starting, I think, in 2 weeks. There is still a waiting list. People do drop off occasionally. So if you haven't gone through that, another one is occurring. And then, of course, we'll do it again in the spring and the fall of 2025. And those have been added to the calendar so you could see the dates. And registration opens 4 weeks before the first class, and they do go very quickly. It is always an 8 a.m. registration opening. And as always, I'm looking for suggestions for continuing education webinars, one-off series. I'm open to doing any of that. We did cataloging month last year in February with 4 different topics. So we should probably do another one of those next year. So always interested in what topics people want to hear about, kind of a deeper dive, or even just kind of a classic foundational overview. I always kind of gather up some cataloging news and resources to share out. I try to link to these updates from the Library of Congress for their subject headings. It's a kind of interesting to see what terms are getting approved, worked on, revisited. And it's also a good reminder that these things are not set in stone, that they do evolve, that people are part of these SACO funnels that work to revise subject headings so they are relevant, accurate, and have really evolved with the times. So you can explore those if you feel like it. We don't need to go through them in depth, but I try to round them up there for you in one place. An interesting thing that I came across is that there's a collective of librarians. I think a lot of them are based in the Midwest, but they are very interested in zines and creating kind of a zine union catalog where these zines from all over the place are getting cataloged in a very kind of unified way. It's kind of interesting to look at, and I know that in the state collection we have at least 1 or 2 zines that were made by library programs in the state. So it's kind of a peripheral item, but I feel like it's growing in library popularity. So if you see that, if you have questions about it, feel free to send me an email. But it's an interesting thing that these librarians are trying to do to get kind of zine cataloging to be more unified. And The Cataloging Lab has a really good roundup that they publish monthly with webinars and even recordings of webinars, different podcasts to listen to, articles, cataloging news. It's all very interesting stuff, and they typically will kind of note upcoming webinars. So from that link that was updated in July, I was actually able to watch this presentation on Indigenous knowledge and language. There's a YouTube video recording of it. There were 3 presentations from various projects all over North America about subject headings, classification when it comes to Indigenous materials, whether that be like Indigenous authors or materials about Native populations. So it was really interesting. They did share out the slides as well. It was a very kind of short hour for 3 presentations, but it was interesting to think about. They talked about Brian Deere classification system, which is something that I'm going to be looking into. So I thought I would share that out specifically because it was really good. Also, this NASIG, they're a nonprofit, I believe. Their YouTube page has tons of webinars on a variety of information, data, metadata, cataloging, technical services topics. So if you have time, if you're looking for a webinar, they might be a good resource to check out. And you could use that YouTube link to get to their YouTube page and see all of their tutorials that they have. Quite a bit. Does anyone have, let me just check in with how we're doing here. Let me check the chat. We're looking good. No questions so far. If anyone ever has topics that they would like to see on the agenda, send them to me ahead of time or, whenever. I kind of like to keep it running as I go. So I'm working on the agenda kind of from the moment the cataloging roundtable ends to our next meeting. So no one has anything. I'll jump back into it. I pulled this off of the listserv, also always a great resource for questions. Tracy Joy at the Heartland Public Library had posted about labeling and numbering book series for better findability and ease of shelving. And so the question was posed, and one of the public responses, which let me just say that I hope whenever anyone posts a question, usually the reply all is like, don't use it. But if you have a response, it's always helpful to reply all. She got a response from the Russell Memorial Library talking about how they do it using the series name and then the number. And they even talked about, like, specifically, there's a 3-ring binder that gets updated. And going off of that, I just put these 2 links, which can be really helpful to find out book series, the order, and also specific titles, like if you should refer to Louise Penny's books as the Inspector Gamache series. So those are 2 good resources that help with this. That's just an example that one library uses. But if people have ways of numbering and labeling book series, feel free to try and find that on the listserv, or I'm always happy to post responses here and share that out. Yeah. I will open it up to, are there any conundrums that anyone would like to share that they've been coming across? I know, Deb, you said at Norwich, book donations have been considered a conundrum. Feel free to expand upon that, or anyone can jump in.
Yes, we kind of went very conservative during COVID as far as accepting book donations.
Yep.
Um, yeah. And now we've gotten a few new inquiries about book donations, and it's like that fear of getting overwhelmed with so many new or book donations coming in. And it kind of, how do you set the boundaries for that in your library? Um, there's one person, and he's really well-meaning right now, an alum that wants to donate books that he thinks will be helpful for students. He said they're um, all within about a 10-year period, so they sound like they're recent books, but yet he won't send us a list, and he said there's several hundred, and I'm just afraid that, yeah. And then if we accept his, then does that send a precedent going forward? And that's sort of where it gets into a sticky situation. In the past, I have processed donations. So that's why I'm sort of reluctant, because I realize like what it's very time consuming just to go through checking for duplicates. And then we do have like a free book cart area that if we don't decide not to add those books in the collection, but it's just like, I don't want to open this up and all of a sudden have like a lot of things dumped on us. And then also, if we don't want to add them to the collection and nobody takes them off the book card, the discarding of those books. So all kinds of, questions in the day-to-day operation. How do we handle our donations?
Yeah. I mean, my first response, well, firstly, does anyone want to jump in with a response to this book donation conundrum?
I'm personally a big fan of not accepting donations. I think typically it's more work than it's worth for the like 2 good books you get out of it. And if it's easier to just have a policy of, I'm sorry, we don't accept them, come up with whatever excuse you need so people feel good. It's nice if you can have a few spots that maybe they could try otherwise, but people find it really hard to get rid of their books to like the recycle bin, but sometimes that is where they need to go.
Yep. Thanks.
I think it's just important to have some kind of policy in place, like then you can be consistent when people ask. And there's always exceptions, like if there's where an area where you really need books and there's like the perfect book is donated, then that's fine. But no matter what you decide, just having some kind of policy in place so everyone knows what the basic rules are, and I think is important for donations.
Yeah, I was gonna start definitely at policy, making sure that it's clearly spelled out. And I wonder, my first question is, I wonder if the Department of Libraries has a sample policy for that specific thing. If not, I'm gonna maybe talk to Kevin Unreith about making sure that our sample policy does clearly talk about donations. And it's always important to write in that policy explicitly that if you gift something to the library, if you donate it to it, it is truly up to your judgment what happens to that material. Because I know that some people are like donating to the library because they don't want to see it recycled, but the reality is that if no one wants it, if it doesn't make sense for your collection to have, it's going to get recycled. So making sure that your policy explicitly states that it then becomes the library's jurisdiction to do with whatever needs to be done. That's really important to have that transparency. Yeah, and the consistency piece is really helpful. I know that on the listserv, there have been a couple discussions about weeding and where to send books in terms of like Better World Books, things like that. I've actually saved those emails because it's a question that gets asked so frequently. So I can copy some responses and put them into the agenda here. I see that Michelle put a nice comment in the chat. I'll read it out. So Fletcher Memorial only accepts bulk donations during the month prior to summer book sale. They do not accept a few in hand if they are, oh no, they do accept a few in hand if they are current books or popular titles and is accepted by the director. Yeah. So yeah, having a window could be like a window of donations could be a way to kind of curtail a huge amount. But yeah, having that in policy is going to be kind of key, I think. I see that there are some other responses being typed, so.
We do have a policy, in the way he describes it seems to fit within like recent publications. But the thing we've asked him for is to provide us a list, and that's where he seems to be reluctant. So that's another thing we've done is like, well, if you can provide us a list, the last I've left it is like, if you could be a little bit selective, picking the most recent and send us a list, but that getting them to provide us that list is kind of tricky too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we get donations here at the state library, and we almost always ask for a list. Just because, especially with some of our material, it can be kind of old and hard to transport. So that's, yeah, it's a difficult thing if the donator does not want to supply a list beforehand. I feel like that's almost a bad sign. Like if they don't want to do the work of listing things before donating, it, yeah, it's not a great feeling. It doesn't breed confidence, it seems. Caitlin had written that Essex Free is similar to Fletcher. They only have capacity prior to a few months before book fundraiser in June. And Jess writes, we put a policy in place and made a little handout that staff can give to donors. Oh, that's a good idea. Assuming that they ask, of course, about them ahead of time and don't leave them in a box outside the library. Yep. Would be happy to share the handout if useful, limiting to one small box and need to be pretty new. Jess, I would love to see that handout. And I would attach it to the agenda so that people can see it. That would be great if you wouldn't mind emailing me it. Great. Yeah, I know that we public library that I worked at had the unfortunate situation where someone had just left a bag, like a paper bag full of books on our back stoop, and it rained that night. So when we got to work in the morning, there was a soggy bag of donated books, to which was then taken a picture of, posted on social media, just reiterating to people that there are specific times, like when we're open during operating hours, to donate books, or else they end up like this. And most people who are donating are not trying to pass off trash or what they see as trash. So everyone can kind of respect the fact that, yep, there is a procedure here. So Series had wrote, we also have a policy and our friends group lets the staff know of dates that we can accept donations as they are in charge of our book sales. Aldrich also has a handout that I can share if people would like to see it. Yeah, I would love to see those handouts. That would be great. And I think part of this might fall into kind of operational things. So I might loop Kevin Unraith here at the Department of Libraries in on the specific question that we're discussing. Happy it's coming up here. And I'll share those handouts because yeah, that's really useful. I think it also kind of comes down to that some patrons are maybe more difficult with this specific topic than others. So it might be, you know, all the best policy in the world will not satisfy the one patron who really wants to give you their set of National Geographic magazines that no one's ever going to look at again, and will just probably sit on your free pile. Making a note to add some of the weeding responses, just so that those get collected as well in one place. Okay, final comments on book donations. Otherwise, we can open it up to more conundrums if people have things they want to share. And then if we don't have any more conundrums, if anyone has a success that they would like to share, we'd be happy to hear that. Always nice to end on a positive note. Not seeing anything in the chat. I know that last time we met, South Burlington was working on revamping, I think, their classification of nonfiction. I think that was a project that was being taken on this summer. So I'm always curious as to how that went. I don't think our South Burlington representative is here today, but I'll always be looking for some follow-up on things like that. All right, it is 10:34. I don't have anything else to share. Like I said, if there are things to share, put them in the chat. Feel free to pipe up. But if not, today will be a short meeting and I'm okay with that. If we are all set for today, the next cataloging roundtable, as a reminder, is Tuesday, November 26th. That'll be the last one for the year. It will be at 10 a.m. on Teams like this. And if there are ever suggestions for topics you want to hear about, topics we should discuss, things for the roundtable, please let me in or let me know, loop me in, send me an email. It's always at the top. It's just my name, lauren.kelly@vermont.gov. Otherwise, thanks everyone for joining today. Thanks for talking about book donations. And hopefully you can access the agenda that I'll post when our link is ready to this recording, and you can explore some of the links. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of the week, and we'll see you in a couple months. If not before then, if anything comes up in the meantime, I'm always here. Let me know. Otherwise, thanks everyone for coming here today.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yep. Thank you.